All right, here we are. Welcome to Warrior Cats. Storytime Part 9. Part 9. 9. 9. Pronounce it right. 9. Keeping the promise to get through the entire book. It's been a busy week. I've been messing around with cats in other worlds. So, yay. In case you're interested, I just put out the first edition, maybe the only edition of Into the Wild Warrior Cats album, music that I've created using technologies that did not exist before. It's been a lot of fun uh, producing music using technology produces some unexpected results. Anyway, that's irrelevant. This is the first book in the Warriors Into the Wild series, and so far so good. I'm really impressed with the story and the depth that's there, use of language, characterization. It's all cool. So let's press on. I've covered the background of the book in previous um, videos, so I'm not going to waste time with that. I'm just going to get into next part of the story, which is part 9 for us, which it doesn't run exactly with the chapters, so it's somewhere up around. I'm not sure. It's not chapter 14, so I can't quite remember. Just remember the parts. Thank you to Rose on SoundCloud for providing the album. Um, Listening is fair use policy for educational purposes only, not for resale or personal profit. There we go. Probably turn my mic off as well while it's running. I guess it always ends up being night. If you noticed, almost always ends up being night when I start. So let's go. 5, 6, 7, 8, 9.
Chapter 13. Firepaw reached the edge of the ravine and looked down at the camp. He was panting and his paws were slippery with dew. He sniffed the air. He was alone. There was still time to speak to Yellowfang before the others returned from the gathering. Silently, he jumped down the rocky slope and slipped through the gorse tunnel unnoticed. The camp was still and quiet, apart from the muted snuffles of sleeping cats. Firepaw quickly crept around the edge of the clearing to Yellowfang's nest. The old medicine cat was curled on top of her mossy bedding. "Yellowfang," he hissed urgently. "Yellowfang, wake up! It's important!" Two orange eyes opened and glinted in the moonlight. "I wasn't sleeping," meowed Yellowfang quietly. She sounded calm and alert. "You came straight from the gathering to me? That must mean you've heard." She blinked slowly and looked away. "So Broken Star has kept his promise." "What promise?" Firepaw felt very confused. Yellowfang seemed to know more than he did about what was going on. "Shadow Clan's noble leader promised to drive me from every clan territory," Yellowfang replied dryly. "What did he say about me?" "He warned us that our kits were in danger as long as we sheltered the Shadow Clan rogue. He didn't say your name, but ThunderClan guessed who he was talking about. You must leave before the others get back. You are in danger." "You mean they believed Broken Star?" Yellowfang flattened her ears and swished her tail angrily. "Yes," Firepaw meowed urgently. "Darkstripe says you're dangerous. The other cats are scared of what you might do. Tigerclaw is planning to come back, and I don't know. I think you should go before they get here." In the distance, Firepaw could hear the yowls of angry cats. Yellowfang struggled stiffly to her paws. Firepaw gave her a nudge to help her up. his mind still spinning with questions. What did Broken Star mean when he warned us to keep a close eye on our kits? He couldn't stop himself from asking. Would you really do something like that? Would I what? Would you harm our kits? Yellowfang flared her nostrils and looked steadily at him. Do you think so? Firepaw met her gaze without flinching. No, I don't believe you would ever harm a kit. But why would Broken Star say such a thing? The noise of the cats was coming nearer, and with it, the sense of aggression and anger. Yellowfang looked wildly from side to side. Go, Firepaw urged. Her safety was more important than his curiosity. But Yellowfang remained where she was and stared at him. A calm look suddenly came into her wild eyes. Firepaw, you believe I'm innocent, and I'm grateful for that. If you believe me, then others might. And I know Blue Star will give me a fair hearing. I can't run forever. I'm too old. I shall stay here and face whatever your clan decides for me. She sighed and sank down onto her bony haunches. But what about Tiger Claw? What if he... He is headstrong, and he knows the power he has over the other clan cats. They are in awe of him, but even he will obey Blue Star. Rustling in the undergrowth beyond the camp boundary told Firepaw that the cats were almost at the entrance. Go away, Firepaw, hissed Yellowfang, baring her blackened teeth at him. Don't make trouble for yourself by being seen with me now. There is nothing you can do for me. Have faith in your leader, and let her decide what happens to me. Firepaw realized Yellowfang had made up her mind. He touched his nose to her patchy fur, then crept silently away into the shadows to watch. Through the gorse came the cats, Blue Star first, accompanied by Lionheart. Frostfur and Willowpelt were right behind them. Frostfur raced away from the troop immediately and ran toward the nursery, the fur on her tail bristling in alarm. Tigerclaw and Darkstripe strode into the clearing, shoulder to shoulder, looking grim. The others followed behind, with Ravenpaw and Greypaw at the rear. As soon as he saw his friends, Firepaw trotted out to join them. You went to warn Yellowfang, didn't you? Whispered Greypaw when Firepaw reached his side. Yes, I did, Firepaw admitted. But she won't leave. She trusts Blue Star to treat her fairly. Did anyone miss me? Only us, replied Ravenpaw. Around the camp, the cats who had stayed behind began to wake up. They must have scented the aggression and heard the tension in the voices of the returning cats, for they all came running into the clearing, their tails held high. What has happened? Called a tabby warrior named Running Wind. Broken Star has demanded hunting rights for Shadow Clan in our territory, replied Longtail loudly enough for all the cats to hear. And he warned us about a rogue cat who will harm our kits, added Willowpelt. It must be Yellowfang. Meows of anger and distress rose from the crowd. Silence! Ordered Blue Star, leaping onto the high rock. Instinctively, the cat settled in front of her. A loud screech made every cat turn its head toward the fallen tree where the elders slept. Tigerclaw and Darkstripe were dragging Yellowfang roughly from her nest. She shrieked furiously as they hauled her into the clearing and dumped her in front of the high rock. Firepaw felt every muscle in his body tense. Without thinking, he dropped into a low crouch, ready to spring at Yellowfang's persecutors. Wait, Firepaw, growled Greypaw in his ear. Let Blue Star deal with this. What is going on? Demanded Blue Star, jumping down from the high rock and glaring at her warriors. I gave no order to attack our prisoner. Tigerclaw and Darkstripe instantly let go of Yellowfang, who crouched in the dust, hissing and spitting. Frostfur appeared from the nursery and pushed her way through to the front of the clan. We got back in time, she meowed with a gasp. The kits are safe. Of course they are, snapped Blue Star. Frostfur seemed taken aback. "But you are going to throw Yellowfang out, aren't you?" she meowed, her blue eyes wide. "Throw her out?" spat Darkstripe, unleashing his claws. "We should kill her now!" Bluestar fixed her piercing blue eyes on Darkstripe's angry face. "And what has she done?" she asked with icy calm. Firepaw held his breath. "You were at the gathering? Broken Star said she—" Darkstripe began. "Broken Star said only that there is a rogue somewhere in the woods," meowed Bluestar, her voice menacingly quiet. "He did not mention Yellowfang by name. The kits are safe. For as long as she is in my clan, Yellowfang will not be harmed in any way." Bluestar's words were met with silence, and Firepaw heaved a sigh of relief. Yellowfang looked up at Bluestar and narrowed her eyes respectfully. "I will leave now, if you wish it, Bluestar." "There is no need," Bluestar replied. "You have done nothing wrong. You will be safe here." The ThunderClan leader lifted her gaze to the crowd of cats that surrounded Yellowfang and meowed. "It is time we discussed the real threat to our clan. Broken Star. We have already begun to prepare for an attack by Shadow Clan," Bluestar began. "We'll carry on with those preparations and patrol our borders more frequently. Wind Clan has gone. River Clan has given hunting rights to Shadow Clan warriors. Thunder Clan stands alone against Broken Star." A murmur of defiance rippled through the cats, and Firepaw felt his fur prickle with anticipation. "Then we're not going to agree to Broken Star's demands?" meowed Tigerclaw. "Clans have never shared hunting rights before," Bluestar answered. "They have always managed to support themselves in their own territories. There is no reason why this should change." Tigerclaw nodded approvingly. "But can we defend ourselves against a Shadow Clan attack?" asked Small-Ear's tremulous voice. "Wind Clan didn't manage it. River Clan won't even try." Bluestar met his old eyes with her steady gaze. "We must try. We will not give up our territory without a fight." All around the clearing, Firepaw saw the cats nodding in agreement. "I shall travel to the Moonstone tomorrow," Bluestar announced. "The warriors of StarClan will give me the strength I need to lead ThunderClan through this dark time. You must all get some rest. We have a lot to do when daylight comes. I wish to talk with Lionheart now." Without another word, she turned and strode toward her den. Firepaw noticed the look of wonder that had entered the eyes of some of the cats when Bluestar had mentioned the Moonstone. Now the clan cats hurriedly gathered in groups, meowing in hushed voices full of excitement. "What's the Moonstone?" Firepaw asked Graypaw. "It's a rock deep underground that shines in the dark," whispered Graypaw. His voice was hoarse with awe. "All clan leaders have to spend one night at the Moonstone when they are first chosen. There, the spirits of StarClan share with them." "Share what with them?" Graypaw frowned. "I don't know," he admitted. "I know only that the new leaders have to sleep near the stone, and as they sleep, they have special dreams. After that, they have the gift of 9 lives, and take the name Star." Firepaw watched Yellowfang limp back to her shadowy nest. It looked like Tigerclaw's rough treatment had aggravated her old injury. As he trotted back to the apprentice's den, Firepaw decided to ask Spotted Leaf for more poppy seeds in the morning. "So, what happened?" mewed Dustpaw eagerly, popping his head out of the den. He seemed to have forgotten how much he resented the new apprentice in his eagerness to hear about the gathering. "It's like Longtail said. Broken Star demanded hunting rights," Graypaw began. Sandpaw and Dustpaw sat and listened, but Firepaw was watching the camp. He could see the silhouettes of Blue Star and Lionheart sitting close together outside her den, talking urgently. Then he noticed the small shape of Ravenpaw at the entrance to the warrior's den. Tigerclaw stood beside him. Firepaw saw Ravenpaw's ears flatten as the young cat flinched away from Tigerclaw's fierce words. The dark warrior loomed over him, twice his size, his eyes and teeth flashing in the moonlight. What was he saying to Ravenpaw? Firepaw was just about to creep nearer and listen when Ravenpaw backed away, turned, and ran across the clearing. Firepaw greeted Ravenpaw as he reached the apprentice's den, but Ravenpaw hardly seemed to notice him. Instead, he pushed his way inside the den without a word. Firepaw got up to follow him when he saw Lionheart approaching. "Well," meowed the ThunderClan deputy, striding up to the apprentices. "It seems that Firepaw, Greypaw, and Ravenpaw are about to reach another important stage in their training." "What's that?" mewed Greypaw, looking excited. "Blue Star wishes you three to accompany her on her journey to the Moonstone." Lionheart didn't miss the look of disappointment on the faces of Dustpaw and Sandpaw, because he added, "Don't worry, you two. You'll make the journey soon enough. For now, ThunderClan needs your strength and skill at the camp. I will remain here also." Firepaw looked past Lionheart to his leader. She was moving from one group of warriors to another, meowing instructions to each. Why had she chosen him for this journey, he wondered. "She wants you to rest now," Lionheart continued. "But first, go to Spotted Leaf and collect the herbs you will need on this expedition. It's a long way. You will need something to give you strength and quell your appetite. There will be little time for catching prey." Greypaw nodded, and Firepaw dragged his gaze away from Blue Star and nodded too. "Where is Ravenpaw?" asked Lionheart. "He's in his nest already," replied Firepaw. "Good. Leave him to sleep. You can fetch herbs for him," meowed Lionheart. "Rest well. You leave at dawn." He flicked his tail and walked back to Blue Star's den. "Well then," mewed Sandpaw, "you'd better go and see Spotted Leaf." Firepaw listened for sourness in her voice, but there was none. There was no time for jealousy now. All the cats in the clan seemed to be united against the threat from ShadowClan. Firepaw and Greypaw walked quickly toward Spotted Leaf's den. The fern tunnel was dark. Not even the full moon penetrated its thick covering. Spotted Leaf seemed to be expecting them as they emerged into her moonlit clearing. "You have come for some traveling herbs," she meowed. "Yes, please," Firepaw answered. "And I think Yellowfang needs more poppy seeds. She seemed to be feeling her wounds." "I will take her some after you have gone, and your traveling herbs are ready." Spotted Leaf indicated a pile of carefully made leaf wraps. "Enough for the three of you. The dark green herb will stop your hunger pangs during the journey. The other will give you strength. Eat them both just before you leave. They're not as good as fresh prey, but the taste won't last long." "Thanks, Spotted Leaf," mewed Firepaw. He leaned down and picked up one of the parcels. As he bent his head, Spotted Leaf stretched over and gently rubbed his cheek with her nose. Firepaw breathed in her sweet, warm scent and purred his thanks. Greypaw picked up the other two, and the friends turned and headed back through the tunnel. "Good luck," Spotted Leaf called after them. "Travel safely." They arrived at the entrance to their den and dropped the bundles. "Well, I just hope these herbs don't taste too revolting," muttered Greypaw. "It must be a long way to the Moonstone. We've never been given herbs before. Do you know where it is?" Firepaw asked. "Beyond clan territory, at a place called Highstones. It lies deep underground in a cave we call Mothermouth." "Have you ever been there before?" Firepaw was impressed that Greypaw knew so much about this mysterious place. "No, but all apprentices have to make the journey there before they become warriors." The thought of becoming a warrior made Firepaw's eyes gleam with excitement, and he couldn't help standing a little taller. "Don't get your hopes up. We still have to finish our training," Greypaw warned, as if reading his thoughts. Firepaw looked up through the canopy of leaves at the stars glistening in the black sky above. Moon-high had passed. "We should get some sleep," he mewed. But he couldn't imagine being able to sleep with the thought of tomorrow's adventure spinning through his mind. Attending the gathering, a journey to the Moonstone. How far away his kitty pet life seemed now. Chapter 14. The cold air chilled Firepaw's bones as blackness wrapped itself around him. He could hear nothing, and his nostrils were filled with the musty scent of damp earth. Out of nowhere, a brilliant ball of light flared in front of him. Firepaw ducked his head, screwing up his eyes against the glare. The light shone, dazzling coldly like a star. Then it blinked out, disappearing as quickly as it had come. The darkness fell away, and Firepaw found himself in the forest. He felt comforted by the familiar smells of the woods. He breathed in the moist green scents, and calmness flowed through his body. Without warning, a dreadful noise burst from the trees. Firepaw's fur bristled. It was the screeching of terrified cats racing out from the bushes up ahead. Firepaw recognized their ThunderClan pelts as they fled past him. He stood rooted to the spot, unable to move. Then came great cats, huge dark warriors, their eyes glittering cruelly. They thundered toward him, pounding the earth with massive paws, their claws unsheathed. And out of the shadows, Firepaw heard a high, desperate cry filled with grief and rage. Greypaw. Firepaw woke, horrified. His dream vanished, leaving his ears ringing and his fur standing on end. As he opened his eyes, he saw the face of Tigerclaw peering into the den. Firepaw leaped to his feet, instantly alert. "Something wrong, Firepaw?" asked Tigerclaw. "Just a dream," Firepaw mumbled. Tigerclaw gave him a curious look, then growled, "Wake the others. We leave shortly." Outside the den, the sky glowed with a new dawn, and dew sparkled on the ferns. It would be a warm day once the sun was up, but the early morning dampness reminded Firepaw that the time of leaf fall was not far off. Firepaw, Greypaw, and Ravenpaw quickly gulped down the herbs that Spotted Leaf had given them. Tigerclaw and Bluestar sat watching them, ready to leave. The rest of the camp was still asleep. "Ugh," complained Greypaw. "I knew they'd be bitter. Why couldn't we eat a fat, juicy mouth instead?" "These herbs will keep your hunger at bay longer," answered Bluestar. "And they will make you strong. We have a long journey ahead of us." "Have you eaten yours already?" Firepaw asked. "I cannot eat if I'm going to share dreams with StarClan at the Moonstone tonight," replied Bluestar. Firepaw felt his paws tingle when he heard these words. He was itching to begin the journey. With the dawn's light and the familiar voices, the terror of his dream had left him. All that remained was the memory of the brilliant light, and Bluestar's words sent a renewed thrill of excitement through him. The 5 cats made their way through the gorse tunnel and out of the camp. Lionheart was just returning with a patrol. "Safe journey," he meowed. Bluestar nodded. "I know I can trust you to keep the camp safe," she answered. Lionheart looked at Greypaw and dipped his head. "Remember," he meowed, "you are almost a warrior. Don't forget what I have taught you." Greypaw looked back at Lionheart with affection. "I will always remember, Lionheart," he mewed, nudging his head against the tabby's broad golden flank. They retraced their route to Four Trees. This was the quickest way to pass into WindClan territory. High stones lay beyond. As Firepaw bounded down the side of the glade toward the great rock, he could still smell the sense of last night's gathering. He followed the others through the grassy clearing and up the slope on the other side, into WindClan territory. The bushy slope became steeper as they climbed, and rockier, until the cats had to leap from boulder to boulder up the side of a craggy cliff face. Firepaw paused when they reached the top. Ahead of them, the ground flattened out into a wide plateau. The wind blew in a steady gust that rippled the grass and bent the trees. The soil was stony, and outcroppings of bare rock dotted the landscape here and there. The air still carried the sense of WindClan, but they were stale. Much fresher and more alarming were the pungent markings of ShadowClan warriors. All clans are entitled to safe passage to the Moonstone, but ShadowClan seems to have no respect for the warrior code anymore. So be alert, warned Bluestar. We mustn't hunt outside our territory, though. We'll follow the warrior code, even if ShadowClan doesn't. They set off across the plateau as the sun rose into the sky, following the tracks through the heather. Firepaw had grown used to living under a canopy of trees. Without their shade, his flame-colored pelt felt heavy and hot, and his back seemed to burn. He was thankful for the steady breeze blowing from the forests behind. Suddenly, Tigerclaw stopped dead. "Watch out!" he hissed. "I smell a ShadowClan patrol." Firepaw and the others lifted their noses, and sure enough, the scent of ShadowClan warriors traveled on the wind. "They are upwind. They won't know we are here if we keep moving," meowed Bluestar. "But we must hurry. If they move ahead, they'll detect us. It's not far to the edge of WindClan territory now." They moved on quickly, leaping over the rocks, pushing their way through the sweet-smelling heather. Every few steps, Firepaw sniffed the air and glanced over his shoulder, on the lookout for the ShadowClan patrol. But gradually the odor grew fainter and fainter. They must have turned back, he thought with relief. Finally, they reached the edge of the uplands. The landscape changed dramatically, shaped and altered beyond recognition by two legs. Wide earth tracks crisscrossed green and golden meadows. Small woods dotted the land, and two-leg nests were scattered here and there among the fields. In the distance, Firepaw saw a familiar wide gray path, and an acid tang that stung his throat drifted on the breeze. "Is that the Thunder Path?" he asked Graypaw. "Yes," replied Graypaw. "It runs up from ShadowClan territory. Can you see high stones behind it?" Firepaw looked at the distant horizon. The land rose sharply up to a point, jagged and barren. "Do we have to cross the Thunder Path, then?" "Yup," mewed Graypaw. His voice was strong and confident, almost cheerful as he faced the difficult journey. "Come on," Bluestar meowed. She bounded forward. "We can be there by moonrise as long as we keep up the pace." Firepaw followed her with the others, down the hill, away from the bleak hunting grounds of WindClan, and into the lush two-leg territory. Keeping near the hedges, the cats walked on. Once or twice, Firepaw could smell prey scent from the bushes, but Spotted Leaf's herbs had succeeded in taking the edge off his hunger. The sun was still hot on his back, even in the shadows of the hedgerows. They skirted a two-leg nest. It stood on a wide expanse of hard white stone, with smaller nests around the edges. Keeping low, the cats crept past the fence that surrounded the white stone. A sudden barrage of barking and snarling made them spin around. "Dogs!" Firepaw's heart missed a beat. He arched his back, fur bristling from nose to tail. Tigerclaw peered through the fence. "It's all right. They're tied up," he hissed. Firepaw looked at the two dogs scrabbling on the stone, barely 10 tail lengths away. They were nothing like the pampered pets that lived in the gardens of the two-leg place. These creatures stared at him with wild, killing eyes. They strained at their ties and reared up on their hind legs. They growled and barked, their lips drawn back to reveal huge teeth, until the shout of an unseen two-leg silenced them. The cats moved on. The sun was beginning to sink by the time they reached the Thunder Path. Blue Star signaled to them to stop and wait beneath a hedge. His eyes and throat stinging from the fumes, Firepaw watched as the great monsters flashed to and fro in front of him. "We'll go one at a time," meowed Tiger Claw. "Ravenpaw, you first." "No, Tiger Claw," Blue Star interrupted. "I will go first. Don't forget, this will be the first time of crossing for the apprentices. Let them see how it is done." Firepaw stared at his leader as she padded to the edge of the Thunder Path and looked up and down. She waited calmly as one monster after another flew past her, ruffling her fur. Then, when the ear-splitting roar paused for a moment, she raced across to the other side. "Off you go, Ravenpaw. Now you've seen how it's done," meowed Tiger Claw. Firepaw saw Ravenpaw's eyes widen with fear. He knew just how his friend felt. He could smell his own fierce scent. The small black cat crept forward to the edge of the road. It was quiet, but Ravenpaw hesitated. "Go!" hissed Tiger Claw from the hedge. Firepaw saw Ravenpaw's muscles tighten as he prepared to run. Then the ground began to tremble beneath his paws. A monster sped out of the distance and hurtled past. The black cat shrank back for a moment, then pelted over to join Blue Star. A monster coming in the other direction threw dust up where his paws had been just a heartbeat before. Firepaw felt his fur shiver, and he took a deep breath to calm himself. Graypaw was lucky. A long lull let him cross safely. Then it was Firepaw's turn. "Go on, then," growled Tiger Claw. Firepaw looked from Tiger Claw to the Thunder Path, and then walked out from beneath the hedge. He waited at the edge, as Blue Star had done. A monster was rushing toward him. Firepaw looked at the approaching monster. "After this one," he thought, and waited for it to pass. Suddenly his heart lurched as he realized the monster had veered off the Thunder Path and was bumping along the grass. It was heading straight for him. A two-leg was jeering from an opening in its side. Firepaw leaped backward, claws out, battered by the storm of wind from the two-leg monster as it roared past him only a whisker away. He crouched, trembling in the dirt, and stared as it swerved back onto the path and disappeared into the distance. Through the roaring of blood in his ears, Firepaw realized the Thunder Path was quiet again, and he raced across, running faster than he had ever done in his life. "I thought you were Freshkill," cried Graypaw as Firepaw cannoned into him, almost knocking him over. "Me too," Firepaw gasped. He was trying to stop shaking. He turned back to watch Tiger Claw dart over the path toward them. "Two legs!" he spat as he arrived at their side. "Do you want to rest before we go on?" Blue Star asked Firepaw. Firepaw looked up. The sun was low in the sky. "No," he answered. "I'm okay." But he had leaped so frantically out of the monster's way that his claws felt frayed and tender. The cats carried on, with Blue Star in the lead. The earth was darker on this side of the Thunder Path, and the grass felt coarser under Paw. As they approached the foot of high stones, the grass gave way to bare, rocky soil, dotted with patches of heather. The land sloped up now toward the sky. Craggy rocks topped the slope, blazing orange in the sun. Blue Star stopped once more. She chose a sun-warmed rock to sit upon, flat and wide enough for all 5 cats to rest side by side. "Look," she meowed, tilting her nose toward the dark slope before them. "Mothermouth." Firepaw peered upward. The glare of the setting sun blinded him, and the slope was engulfed in shadow. The cats waited in silence. Gradually, as the sun dropped down behind high stones, Firepaw began to make out the cave entrance. A square black hole that yawned darkly beneath the stone archway. "We'll wait here until the moon is higher," meowed Blue Star. "You should hunt if you are hungry, and then get some rest." Firepaw was pleased to have a chance to find food. He was starving now. Graypaw clearly felt the same and leaped away into a clump of heather, following the prey scent that was thick in the air. Firepaw and Ravenpaw followed him. Tigerclaw set off in the opposite direction, but Bluestar remained where she was. She sat still and silent, gazing unblinkingly at Mothermouth. The three apprentices gathered plenty of fresh kill. With Tigerclaw, they crouched on the stony hillside and feasted. But in spite of their easy hunt, no cat said much, and the air still felt thick with tension and anticipation. Afterward, the cats rested beside their leader until the warmth had seeped out of the rock on which they lay, and cold black shadows reached up on all sides. Only then did Bluestar call out, "Come, it is time." Chapter 15.
And so they reached the Moonstone. The lore is beginning to become important. And the characterization is great so far. As I said, really enjoying it. I wish I could enjoy some other elements as much as I enjoy the story, but so be it. Right, that's life. Um, Yay, that was part 9. Very enjoyable. Really enjoying the story in short bursts, even when I'm tired. So, thanks for tuning in. The visuals are warrior cats from Roblox. It's a live game, as you can see from the two cats that have appeared. There we go. Hello. Goodbye. Not quite sure what's going on there. It's Wind Clan. Yep, it is. Enderpaw, let's go. Dun dun dun. Alright, it's great for roleplay. Wherever you are, whatever you're doing, have a great have a great one. Take care. Speak soon.